Hey guys, Dom here, and welcome to another VOD review. First things first, as you can see here, I've invested into a new audio setup, so hopefully the quality of my sound is better and there are no more gripes with the quality of my audio. For today's VOD review, we are going to be going over an EU LCS match between Fnatic and Gamers2. This one was played on Week 6, Day 1, and the focal points of today's VOD review will be on how to snowball an early game advantage and how to control objectives with a lead through vision control. So, we're going to be jumping right into the pick and bans here, and the first ban that Fnatic does is Poppy. This is a very consistent ban from Blue Side. I've seen a lot of Poppy bans on Blue Side in the LCS recently, and it's mainly because teams don't want to waste their first pick on it, and they'd rather save their first pick for champions like Nidalee, Lulu, or Gangplank. So the Poppy ban pretty much ensures that you'll be getting one of those strong champions, and you won't be pigeonholed into giving over a power pick or two power picks for the Poppy. Followed by the Poppy ban is the Lulu ban, which is a strong pick, especially right now with the Protect the Kog'Maw comp coming back into fruition. Lulu is a champion that enables Kog'Maw to do more damage and also be more survivable. So instead of having to wait for the Sterax gauge for the Magma Mortius to come onto your Kog'Maw, you just throw shield on him, you throw Lulu ult on him, and you put your W on him, and you literally just watch him 1v5 the enemy team. So, Lulu, pretty smart ban, also works well against what Fnatic has been playing, and I assume that Fnatic has had a reputation of playing Kog'Maw and scrims because people were talking about it on the EU LCS broadcast. Also, Braum, banned by Fnatic, target ban at Hybrid. He had great performances on Braum during the LCS, so definitely a solid ban. Was a big contributor to a huge part of their win streak. The ban that I really want to talk about here is the Gragas ban, because Gragas is a champion that wasn't even being picked 2 weeks ago, and after the W buff and the Q buff to Gragas, he's become something that's clearly a really high priority pick and ban for jungle, and he's being banned over things like Nidalee, Kindred, Elise, Graves, Rek'Sai. All these champions that were the top tier of junglers in LCS are now being put through the draft, and Gragas is being banned instead, which is something that I found interesting. Maybe it's a target ban in Spirit, but it seems like Gragas has risen a really high amount in priority. Gangplank is then banned by Fnatic. It's not something that I agree with normally to ban Gangplank on Blue Side. It has the flex option. There's so many opportunities for you to control the tempo with things like your Gangplank ultimate, with your barrel clear, etc. But apparently Fnatic doesn't want to first pick it, so they end up banning it, which to me just means that they don't have confidence in their Gangplank play. And the last ban from Gamers2 is Kalista. Kalista is banned here because it has a lot of engage. It combos well with things like Alistar, which has been one of the things that we've seen Clyde play in the LCS. And it just synergizes really well with champions that have a second form of engage. So let's say Kalista makes it through the draft with Braum. You throw the Braum at the enemy team. The Braum then follows up the Kalista knockup with his ultimate, and there you have your team fight. And obviously, this is not something the Gamers2 wanted to deal with. So Fnatic first picks Nidalee. This is also a takeaway from Trick, because Trick had been playing a lot of Nidalee to a lot of success. I'm pretty sure the last time these teams play, Trick ended up playing extremely well with the Nidalee. So it's a takeaway, but also an extremely strong pick right now in the jungle. The strength of the Aegis Mastery does wonders for this champion, because instead of having to build Rod of Aegis every game, you have options like picking up a Zhonya's or an Abyssal Scepter first item, instead of having to always go Rod of Aegis. Gamers2 responds with Nautilus and Lucian. Lucian is just a simple blindable AD. He's one of the two most blindable ADs with Kalista, so both of those champions you can pretty much pick into anything, and it's just a consistent champion that you'll almost never lose lane with. Nautilus is picked because I assume that Gamers2 believes that Fnatic's going to pick a tank top here. With the Nidalee pick, it's very rare that an enemy team runs a carry top with a Nidalee, so I thought that the Nautilus pick was something that matches up well into tanks. It doesn't do well into things like Fiora, but they must have had some reason why they thought Fnatic wasn't going to pick it. Fiora is a champion that we haven't seen Gamsu play yet, and he's played a lot of Maokai, he's played Sion, he's played Olaf, he's played a bunch of tanks, so I thought that it was a champion that was kind of based off the scouting report, based off history, more than off it being that strong of a pick right now. Fnatic's draft I actually really want to talk about here. The Alistar and the Alistar and Kog'Maw are a really solid combo of picks because they complement each other extremely well. Kog'Maw is always going to be looking for that late game, and Alistar is a champion that neutralizes the lane phase and almost always gets you to that late game. So Alistar, if you're losing lane, you can always just max heal and play the lane out like the biggest bitch in the world and just spam heal and be down 10 to 15 CS, which is literally exactly what Kog'Maw wants. If Kog'Maw gets through the first 15, 20 minutes of the game, only down 15, 20 CS, boom, it's ready to go. It's going to make your money. You're going to get your 2 items. You're going to get into a team fight, and he's going to like be able to 1v3 kill the whole enemy team. So I really like this draft from Fnatic so far. Seems extremely strong. And yeah, G2 responds with the Trundle, and I think their pick is Rumble here. And Rumble is a champion that has recently been coming back into the meta as a jungler. It's actually really weird that people are playing it so much in the jungle, but it is an extremely strong jungler in terms of clear speed. It clears really well compared to how it used to clear because the Q now does double damage to the monsters. So it's a solid pick here, and it's good versus immobile AD carries like Kog'Maw, for example, because they obviously have one way to get out of the ultimate, which is to flash. The pick from Trundle solidified to me that they were 100% expecting Fnatic to run a tank top, because right now there's nothing to steal stats from on Fnatic's team besides for if they do pick a tank top. So to me, this Trundle pick guaranteed that they thought Gamsu was going to play a tank top with the Nilly comp, either from scrim experience, either from what they saw at LCS so far, but they just knew that a tank top was incoming, and that's why they went for the Trundle. Also, Trundle gets through the matchup fine versus Alistar. It's really hard to punish the Trundle, and Trundle is one of the stronger supports out of lane. And Fnatic ends up going with Lissandra combined with Maokai, which is the tank top that we had been kind of foreseeing throughout this draft, as well as Lissandra, which should create a big zone in front of Kog'Maw for Kog'Maw to deal consistent damage. I was actually really surprised that they had this much confidence in the Kog'Maw to pretty much be running a completely supportive team focused around the Kog'Maw. In this team comp, Nilly really just functions as a heal bot for Kog'Maw, something that's going to toss the heal on Kog'Maw and just sit there and let the Kog'Maw run free. Maokai is just sitting there as a tank, can tank more damage than almost any other top laner in the game. And Fabiven's just going to create a zone between his team and the enemy team by going in, dropping his W, then ulting himself, and then Zanyazing to following up. So, Gamers2 responds with the last pick, Ahri, and he actually doesn't take Cleanse, he takes Ignite this game, but he's just hovering the Cleanse, which to me would have been a huge mistake. I don't like taking Cleanse on Ahri. I think Ahri needs the Ignite for kill pressure, but yeah, the Cleanse to me, I've had some bad memories. We ran it once at LCS. I wasn't a fan of it. So, the Ahri is a pick that pretty much solidifies G2's win condition, which is to flank the Kog'Maw. They have Nautilus, which they're going to be looking for TP flanks with. They now have an Ahri to help that Nautilus get into the backline and kill the Kog'Maw. And they also have Rumble ult, which will be able to be shot from pretty much anywhere in the team fight directly onto the Kog'Maw to assist his team with killing the Kog'Maw. Also, Lucian Culling can be thrown in there. It's obviously blockable. It's not as reliable as the other ones, but it's an extremely strong way of following up CC. So yeah, we're just going to skip this intro, and we're into the game. So yeah, we've already talked about Gamers2's win condition and how they want to win the game, which is by flanking. They have a flank team comp. They have Ahri, they have Nautilus with TP. They're going to try to kill the Kog'Maw. So Fnatic's win condition is the opposite of that. Fnatic doesn't want to flank. They don't want these messed up team fights with people coming in from the side. They want to run down a lane, see the entire enemy team, match up with them face to face, and ensure that the Kog'Maw is able to do more damage than the Lucian. And he will be able to do more damage than the Lucian, assuming that he at least gets his 2-item Pyro Spike, and that he's able to position in a way where his Lissandra, his Maokai, and his Alistar are zoning for him, and he's able to just sit in the back line and auto-attack. So, that is the Fnatic win condition, and obviously, because they are going for the late game, they don't want to really play a lane game versus Lucian. The Nautilus versus Maokai is not great for the Maokai early. They decide, okay, let's go for the lane swap. which Gamers 2 actually does a really good job of reading. They know that Fnatic has a Kog'Maw Alistar lane. They probably don't want a lane standard, and they both blind swap, and they play the mind game, and Gamers 2 actually wins out on the mind game here. Something that I thought was kind of weird was how hard Fnatic did commit to this mind game. Not only did they have Gamsu start topside with Spirit, they had Reckless start a Cull, which is, to me, Cull is not a starting item normally. You only go Cull in 2v1s where you know you're 2v1ing, or if in your mind you think that Doran's Blade isn't needed. But in my perspective, I think that Doran's Blade is still the go-to starting item for AD carry, and a Cull can be opted into as a second item. So on your first back, you already have your Doran's Blade. You can go a Cull and try to get your gold generation in like that. It kind of reminds me of an Avarice Blade in a way. So yeah, it was kind of a weird starting item, and I didn't necessarily enjoy the item in this specific circumstance. And something that you have to note here is because of, like I mentioned before, because Gamsu committed so hard to the mind game and started topside with Spirit, he has to burn his teleport bottom, which means that any fights around top are, worst comes to worst, a 4v4 between Fnatic and Gamers 2. That's the best that Fnatic can hope for. That's the worst that Gamers 2 can hope for. That's if Lissandra is able to TP out of the lane, and if the both junglers meet each other top. At this point with Fnatic, I think the only lanes that Nidalee can pressure are mid and bottom. In my opinion, if he tries to go towards the top side of the map, it's too risky because your Kog'Maw is not going to have any combat stats. Also, Kog'Maw just doesn't put out much damage in the early game, especially with a Cull. And in my mind, fighting up there will just almost guarantee you a loss because the Nautilus TP is going to come in. The Nautilus pre-6 is going to do a lot more damage and provide a lot more CC than the Lissandra in a straight-up 3v3, 4v4 fight. So Fnatic pretty much needs to rely on the fact that Alistar and Kog'Maw can farm out the lane and just pretty much play as passive as possible, while Nidalee either pressures the enemy jungler, where the Nidalee would run into the Rumble, try to chunk him out, or if the Nidalee thinks for some reason that she can get a kill on the Ahri, maybe Febim can set it up, or if Maokai gets pushed on by the Nautilus, he can maybe go bottom. But Spirit actually does the opposite of all this, and he decides that he wants to try to go for a kill top because I guess the communication was that Lucian was playing aggressive, which he was, and they were they were relying on the fact that Alistar would be able to get the Q flash and headbutt him back. This gank actually turns out pretty poorly, but I think it could have worked. The spear obviously misses here. He was trying to hit it midway, and then when Spirit flashes in, he actually tags a minion with his Q. So he doesn't end up getting his Cougar form Q damage onto Lucian, which would have killed the Lucian. I still think that the Spirit was 100% going to die. Kog'Maw would probably die too. It probably would have ended up being a 1-for-2. But it definitely could have been better played by Fnatic. Spirit definitely mechanically misplayed there, which is really weird considering that he is one of the better mechanical junglers in the world, and he is known as a really strong mechanical player. That's mainly the reason that he's on this team. He should be able to, get his Cougar form spells on the right people, but I mean, obviously it's just a misplay. It always happens at LCS. Almost everyone misplays, so it's just unfortunate, but conceptually, it wasn't the best play to go for, and then the execution was also terrible. Yep. That's so sad. Just seeing the Q go on the minion is super sad. I feel like maybe if he got it, maybe it just goes 1-for-1, but it's probably going to be bad anyway because Rumble is already up there to turn it. This was insane from Perks. This is a crazy mechanical play. He's so deep in the enemy jungle. He knows that the enemy Maokai, Alistar, and Lissandra are all up there, and he just kills Spirit deep in the jungle and is able to somehow live. this is why I think this guy's a beast right now. He's just been playing super well, and I like his playstyle. He's extremely aggressive, and he's confident in his mechanics. So yeah, really good play here. So something that you want to notice here in the game is Nautilus TP top, right? Lysandra and Nautilus both TP top, but Lysandra's just a mid laner. She's just going to be farming mid with her TP down. Doesn't really matter. Gamers 2 now knows that Maokai has TP advantage. So instead of going up here and trading trading kills pretty much, they would end up going up here, they'd get TP'd on by the Maokai, they'd end up in a fight. Instead of opting into a situation where they would fight, almost guaranteed, they decide to immediately swap the lanes and use the fact that Lucian with the BF sword is going to push way faster than Kog'Maw with Cull and Pickaxe, and they make the proactive swap. And because they're smart about the rotation, they maintain tempo. They're the ones that are pushing first, and they force Fnatic to respond to them. Also, they make a good play on mid and get the kill on Lysandra. Even though Perks gets traded 1-for-1, they get a kill trade plus a TP, which is always worth. And they make their way back down bottom and kill the second bottom turret. So they got 2 turrets for 1 there, traded a kill for a kill and TP mid, and potentially here what I think would have been the best decision. Let me hover over here so we lose the bar. But what I think would have been a good decision here is just taking the dragon, because you get that 7-minute 50-second, that 8-minute dragon. It makes the 5 dragon win condition extremely realistic, and I think that when you're playing a comp that gets outscaled, a set of champions that gets outscaled, you'd rather have the early game advantage from the 5th dragon. You want to be able to get the 5th dragon as a win condition when the enemy team has still not fully scaled. So I would have rather seen them take the dragon over that kill, or even if they did opt for the kill, which they did on Kog'Maw, they could have still went back and got the dragon. I think that would have just put a better timer on the game, where Fnatic would have had to take a couple more risky fights, and they would have needed to contest some of these dragons, which is what G2 wants at this point. Rumble is one of the best champions in the game at dragon fighting early, especially if G2 controls vision. It sets them up to play to their win condition the way they want to win the game, which is flanking. And if they have vision control, flanking an enemy team that's running directly into you is super easy. So, yep, they don't get the dragon and they rotate top, which is smart. They see Maokai bottom and they know that Maokai doesn't have teleport. So they send Kikis all the way up here. Kikis doesn't care that he's getting down in CS. He's going to be down a couple levels. Making Kog'Maw miss the CS as well is way, 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 way worse for Fnatic than it is for Gamers 2 to just have Kikis missing out 20, 30 CS. So yeah, they take this top turret. And I honestly think that instead of pushing this next wave, if they really wanted to fuck the Kog'Maw, they should have just let that wave bounce back to them, because Maokai already has the wave pushing into bot lane. If they just let the lane freeze back to them and they go and they take Rift Herald or something, it really forces Fnatic into a bad situation. They would have to either swap the lanes, or they would need to just have one of the lanes not farm and split the map directly. And splitting the map is essentially when you just put your top lane, your support, your jungle, and your bot laner, your AD carry obviously, bot laner I guess is the new dynamic queue term for them, on the same side of the map, and you just sacrifice one half of the map, and the other half of the map you just try to control everything. So it gives them a lot less options than if they push it all the way into the tier 2 turret and Kog'Maw gets to catch a little bit of CS. He could have still been at something like 30 CS right now if they didn't push it all the way in. But honestly, that's a minor thing. You don't have to do that. Some teams like pushing to the second turret and bouncing it back like that. What I will say is a definitive thing they should have done was taking the Rift Herald. I don't think they've had good enough side objective control, which is Dragon, Rift Herald, Scuttle Crabs. Like, those are decent objectives to take when you're ahead. Not so much the Scuttle Crabs, obviously, but the Dragon and the Rift Herald will help you speed up the game. And when you're 5k up, you should just be taking everything. Okay, so they finally take the dragon, but it's at 11 minutes when they could have had it at 8, which, if you have the first dragon at 8 and the second dragon at 14, you really play around those dragons, it puts a really solid win condition into the game. If you get into these fights around, you know, 25 to 30 minutes, and you're not necessarily winning them, but you have 3 to 4 dragons, you can always tell your team, hey guys, we have 5th dragon in a couple minutes, we don't have to force anything right now. That's something that they obviously don't do this game. That could have been done if they were more proactive with dragon control. So yeah, they try to push it up with 3, but this is not splitting the map. This is just 3 people going up there to push up the wave because they want to get into turret so it bounces back. And because of this, G2 gets exactly what they want, which is a flank off with Kog'Maw. This was the second rumble ult that I thought was really bad from Trick. He should have put it vertically as opposed to horizontally there, but it ends up working out. They're so far ahead and they're so much stronger in this type of situation that they don't end up losing too much off this. Sorry if I keep on hitting the mic. This is the first time I've done anything with this setup. I'll definitely get better at it and more used to just having something in my way when I'm talking with my hands and, you know, moving all over the place. But, yeah, that's what Gamers 2 wants to do. They got a flank off. If they get a flank off before Kog'Maw has like 3 to 4 items and Kog will be able to tank the whole enemy team, they will just win the fight. So, yep, good play from Gamers 2. They notice that the enemy team's shoving up and trying to get the wave into the enemy turret, and they immediately TP behind, run everyone up there, and get a team fight. And Kog'Maw, this is some feels bad man shit right here. Look at this Kog'Maw, level 6, doesn't even have a Ginsu's, 2 levels down, and you have like a Rumble, a Nautilus, Ahri running all on top of you, and you don't have any items. He doesn't even have a Ginsu's. There's nothing he can do. He got off 1 auto or something and maybe an ult, and that was it. That was his entire team fight. So yep, they get pretty cleaned up right here. And now they take the Rift Herald. So, still super far ahead. They're still only up about 5k because they weren't able to really control the minion waves or control the enemy team's jungle that hard, but at least it's a start. It's not terrible. It's not the reason they lost. And the Maokai sapling actually steals that Gromp. That's actually pretty funny. Some tilt-worthy shit. But they're going to push up here. And the reason that Fnatic is trying to force right here, why Gamsu's trying to, you know, root the tunnel and go in, is because they know that Nautilus just TP'd, and they have, you know, 4 or 5 people on the top side of the map. They're attempting to split the map, and they want to be able to force and engage because they think they'll win 4v5. At this point, I actually did not like the rotation from Perks up here. I think Perks could have just stayed mid and got autos off on the mid turret. Them, Fnatic having to defend 2 turrets at once and having Kog'Maw as their only source of wave killer top, or Ahri being able to push in mid, and having Lissandra try to 1v1 clear versus Ahri with your bot mid and top pushing, I think will just yield you better results and more turret damage. Also, if Ahri shoves in mid there, once Kiki's got his wave all the way into the inhib turret, he would have been able to rotate through bottom, through the enemy team's jungle, and just come mid, and they could have potentially 2-man pressured the turret or got it down. I think it just would have opened them up for more turret damage here. And as you can see, in the early game, Ahri and all AP carries just got the buff this season where they do more damage to turrets through their AP. So look at these autos. These autos chunk a turret. Those autos are enough to take down a turret in maybe like 15 to 20 hits. So I definitely think they could have played it better, but this is still fine. They just need to make sure that they stay on top of side objectives and they can keep good vision control, and if Fnatic ever tries to contest anything, they just TV behind and get another fight. So that is what G2 needs to do to close out this game right now. So they start pinking side objectives. This is good. They're extending their vision control. So here they're trying to pressure all 3 lanes at once. But I don't think that they're patient enough. Perks really wants this blue. So if he does want this blue like this, they should be waiting for him to get priority mid. He needs to push up mid all the way first before they start pushing here. as you can see, they're not in sync. Ideally, when you're splitting or when you have people pushing in multiple lanes, you want all 3 waves crashing at the same turret at the same time. So you want all 3 waves hitting the same point at the same time. And that has a lot to do with wave manipulation, and you see right here they get punished because of it. The top lane hits before the mid lane's going to hit, so Forbidden has no obligation to go mid because he's not afraid of them taking the mid turret plus inhibitor turret, and they end up just getting caught up here. I think it ends up being 2 free kills, and they end up getting the mid turret anyway, but these are not the trades they want. This is essentially an even trade, even though they're ahead. So I think that could have been better played from G2 if Perkz was doing his blue buff and trying to get control of mid again. They should just be slow pushing the top wave, not be queuing it, not be shoving it, just auto attack last hitting and trying to push it as slow as possible. And the second Perkz gets mid, Perkz starts shoving down mid, queues the wave, shoves it into the enemy turret, and Lucian starts trying to time the waves to crash together. So they've lost a little bit of tempo now, and they need to focus on the next thing, which is Dragon. Emperor didn't have flash here, so he's just dead immediately. This TP from Maokai is decent, gets out one more kill. And this is exactly what Fnatic needs. They need to just trade right now. Trading 2 kills for a turret is pretty much equivalent gold-wise. And it beats the hell out of the other alternative, which is them slowly losing turret damage on both turrets and just losing side objectives on cooldown. So yeah, this ends up being the second dragon at 18 minutes, where, for example, if they took the 8-minute dragon, they could have got the second dragon at 14 minutes and the third dragon at 20 minutes. So I just think that that would have put a more demanding timer on the game than what they had right now, which is really no worries for Fnatic about 5th dragon. So, yep. G2 is trying to engage. This is actually a good flank. They're playing to their win conditions. They know they have to flank. That was a good rumble ult there, which is much better than the first 2 he threw. I was actually pretty surprised they only got 1 person here. With that quality of flank, I would think they'd be able to get more. I think Perkz honestly had the opportunity to go a little bit harder. He could have chased through with his ultimate charges and went for the Kog'Maw, which got knocked up and obviously rumble ulted and was super low HP without summoners. So, yeah, I think that they just could have played it a little bit more aggressively, but overall, they got another flank off, they got more of a gold lead, and they denied a lot of gold that Fnatic could have got, because instead of being able to farm, Fnatic is now forced into 5v5s that they're bound to lose, with Kog'Maw not having his 2-item spike yet. So this is kind of what I was talking about. Perkz gets his first chunk of damage off. I would have liked to see him distortion one more time into the team. I really don't think that Fnatic would have been able to turn on him. Even if they tried to turn on him, Lucian would have cleaned up the rest of the team. Also, Lucian had heal and Perkz had Abyssal, so yeah, I just think that situation, Perkz could have gone a little bit harder. But generally, he does go hard enough in teamfights, so that's not really a consistent complaint. That's just something that I noticed right now. And obviously in the game, he's thinking, oh, if I go too deep, I'm one of our main carries, I might get Lissandra ulted and die. So completely understandable why he did not go super hard right there. So now that we have a brief lull, something that I want to talk about is itemization. I really disagreed with both of the junglers' itemizations this game. Not having your Rod of Ages on Nidalee by like 21, 22 minutes is just completely unacceptable. If you're going to be that far behind, just go in Abyssal, get the early damage increase from your team, and try to make the most out of the fact that you do have Strength of Aegis and you are building a health pool. This was good by Gamers 2. They ended up getting a pick. They started Baron and they baited Fnatic into a fight, but I think they could have done it better with increased vision control. They have 3 upgraded red sweepers here, and if you look at the amount of wards that Fnatic has on the map, it's way too much considering the lead the Gamers 2 have. If Fnatic gets close to Gamers 2, you see what happens. So if Fnatic is able to get wards in, they should either die for the wards or the ward should be instantly killed. Trick had a sweeper, he missed one of the wards that was on the outside of the pit because he didn't believe that it could be there, so he swept the inside of the pit on top of a pink ward. Also, Perks wasted a sweeper because he wasn't able to use it when his teammates were backing him up, so he used it and Fnatic forced him out of the jungle. And this uncoordinated vision control led to Fnatic being able to contest this Baron. If Fnatic didn't have wards all around the pit right here, Gamsu would have had to TP either to the mid lane wave or deep into his own jungle, and they would have been able to secure the Baron. The Baron got as low as 2k, 3k. They would have had enough time to burst the Baron down instead of having to sacrifice people and essentially lose control of the game. So yeah, that's the mistakes that they had with vision control there. There was also a lack of pink wards bought. Now they actually bought 4 pink wards, so this is good, but they should have done this before they went and controlled Baron. Right now on the map, they only have 2 pink wards. If they're going to try to do Baron, you can sell your items, like your Doran's items don't really matter at this point. It's better to just have vision control and be able to plop down 4 pink wards in the pit and say, hey, if you guys want to get vision, you're going to have to come fight us, and if you come fight us, you lose. So this is the first time where they started really messing up their vision control. Fnatic has way too many wards for how far behind in the game they are. So, yep. And go through this fight again. Perks goes hard. This is what happens when you get flanks and you get messed up team fights where the enemy team, which is Fnatic, is not able to fight 5v5 against you and the COG can't free damage. So yeah, I talked about Spirit's itemization and what I would have liked to see different out of him. For Gamers 2, Trick also had itemization issues, in my opinion. I've seen Rylai's on every Rumble jungle that's been played in competitive play so far, but that doesn't mean that I like the item suddenly. This Baron's at 3k, by the way, when the enemy team comes in. If they have better ward control, they clear out the enemy vision, they delete all the wards that are in the river, then Fnatic doesn't get that situation. But yeah, going back to the Rylai's on Rumble, I personally don't see why Rylai's on Rumble is any different in the jungle than it is on top lane. All top laners stopped buying Rylai's on Rumble once they changed it because Rumble's slows are so high on his E and his ultimate is a 35% slow that the Rylai's doesn't benefit you on those spells, and literally the only spell it benefits you on is your Q, which normally on Rumble, if you hit an empowered E followed by another empowered E, you're guaranteed to get your Q damage on consistently. So this is the first fight that plays into Fnatic's win condition. Every fight up until now, they have been getting flanked, they have been getting TP'd on from behind, and now they're just able to fight head to head. And if you see there, Kog'Maw was able to be pretty much untouched for the first 5 to 10 seconds of the fight, and it got to the point where he could literally stand in front of the whole enemy team and just auto attack, which is really ridiculous that this champion is actually this strong right now. But yeah, I was really surprised that G2 made that call and made that play, because before this point they had been able to TP behind and get these fights consistently, and I felt like at this point, because of the Baron throw, they felt like they were so far ahead that they were like, alright, you know what, just fight them, we win, just fight them, just get any fight and we win. And clearly that's not the case. When you're against 2-item Kog'Maw, you can no longer take any fight and you win. There are points when you can, maybe when Kog'Maw's, you know, before Kog'Maw has Ginsu's, before he has parts for his Runans, maybe you can go for these types of fights, but right now he's too strong. If you don't get on the Kog'Maw and you're not able to CC him and he's able to free damage, then he'll be doing way more than your Lucian. Even though Lucian was ahead up until that point. I actually think Hog was 0-4 until that fight, and he just got a triple kill. But yeah, here once again, so they bought all those pink wards that one time, which was good, and now they're forcing a Baron, and where are their pink wards? Trick just bought a couple pots. You see Perk still has his Doran's rig. I'm pretty sure Kiki's didn't buy a pink ward either. They just should have more vision control than they do right now. They should have more pink wards and more vision denial, specifically. This was still a good fight for Gamers 2 because, as you see here, Gamers 2 didn't get a direct flank, but the fact that Ahri was in a bush and was able to get a bunch of damage onto Reckless just made it a lot easier of a fight than if Reckless is just sitting there, not pressured, autoing, and just getting his AoE damage from his Ginsus and his Runan's Hurricane across the whole enemy team. This is something that you have to like wonder. Okay, so Perks has his red sweeper up, and he literally just walked over 4 wards. No one's calling or remembering where the enemy team's wards are. Like, these are things that you just need to be conscious of when you're in game at LCS. Are just the basics, which are like vision control. And here they just had no idea about denying the enemy team's vision. Look at Reckless here. Gets hooked in, flashes, and just continues autoing. And that's his team fight. He literally didn't even micro at all. He just stood still, right-clicked, flashed, and then continued to right-click. That was his team fight. And that's enough to kill the whole enemy team. But, yep. I mean, if you think about the other options that Trick could have had in terms of itemization, the rallies really didn't do anything there. If anything, it worked against him because the percentage damage is now hurting him more than, for example, let's say he had an Abyssal earlier. He had more magic resist. Maybe he's able to survive that Kog'Maw burst. And the stream went black for a second. This actually happened on stream. Don't freak out. Everything's good. Or, for example, let's say the other alternatives, if he has Azanias. Maybe he has Negatron and Azanias. That right there would be more effective in that fight than just sitting there and essentially getting shredded by a Kog'Maw because he has the rallies. I don't think the rallies really just does anything special on Rumble. So I think as time goes on, we'll be seeing less rallies on Rumble and less Rod of Ages on Italy. I think these are 2 builds that are caught in the past. One more thing that I noticed in itemization that I wanted to bring up. I've seen this a lot in some EU LCS games, but a lot in NA LCS too, where top laners that are playing tanks versus tanks go things like Banner of Command and Zizurot, and I think that those items would have actually been really good here, specifically the Banner of Command, because both teams are insanely magic damage heavy. For Fnatic side, Maokai's all magic damage, Lissandra's all magic damage, Alistar does mostly magic damage, Nidalee does mostly magic damage, and Kog'Maw does a good portion of magic damage too. So getting the early Banner of Command in these fights, or the early Locket even for top lane, in these fights would have been way more efficient than his Spirit Visage. Especially for the early game. Now, it's obviously everyone has a Locket already, but like let's say you have that Locket or that Banner of Command around 15 minutes, like maybe like 10 to 20 minutes, that's when the magic resist is super useful for both teams. So I think that both top laners should have opted into that build this game, or both supports should have opted into not getting their upgraded Sightstone items and went for the Aegises earlier, just because the item is just so strong right now and it's so good in this game specifically. So yeah, once again the casters are talking about it, but the lack of pink wards is pretty atrocious right now. Also, just Fnatic has way too many wards for how many sweepers Gamers 2 has. It doesn't seem like they actually have, something that I've noticed from watching Gamers 2's games is they don't actually have a solid vision system within their team. They normally just buy trinkets and sweepers as they feel, whatever they feel is good. Where, for example, the top teams always have specific vision systems where it's like, all right, top laner, for right now, I think a good vision system to have, a really good baseline one, is top laner, you get a yellow trinket. Support and jungle, you guys get trackers knives, and you guys, like, obviously the jungles get trackers knives, the supports get sidestones, but you guys get wards, and you guys also get red trinkets. AD carry and AP carry, both of you guys get blue trinkets. That's a decent vision system. Sometimes you have, like, conditions that change it up. Let's say you're really behind on Fnatic, for example. If you're really behind, then more blue trinkets are acceptable. Honestly, I think Gamsu should have bought a blue trinket this game because there's so many times where Gamers 2 theoretically should be able to sweep out Baron Vision and have these opportunities to either bait you or start Baron. And if you have blue trinkets, it takes the option out of the game of baiting. It's really hard to play right now against, or to bait right now against 4 blue trinkets. It's something that's almost impossible to do. You pretty much have to just start off Baron and force them to fight. So yeah, I think that their vision system is a little bit off. It doesn't seem coordinated about which players are using their sweepers at which times. It's not like, all right, you use your sweeper now, when they put in their next set of wards, then I'll use my sweeper, and then when they put in their third, like, last couple trinkets, or Gamsu drops his yellow trinkets, and their Alistar refunds or restocks his Sightstone, then our third sweeper is used for those. It just seems like they're all just using their trinkets randomly, which they probably are, to be fair. And this is another fight that just, it's not, like, from Champions Select, you have to know how you're going to win the game. And Gamers 2, it's all about flanking. Ari and Nautilus have to get angles onto the Kog'Maw. If they fight head-to-head, it's impossible for Gamers 2 to do anything. I mean, just look at this fight. Gamsu just flashes on the Trundle, and Reckless just shreds him. I'm not sure if Alistar needed to ult there. Actually, let me go back. I'm pretty sure saving his ult could have been better. Let's see the Alistar here. Because this kind of ends up biting Fnatic in the ass later, so let's see. Excuse me, I'm getting the hiccups. Maokai flashes onto the Trundle. This is good. No, this is a good Rumble. This is a good Alistar ult. Never mind. He needed to ult there. He could have got focused really hard if he didn't. But yeah, they get the pick and then they just go towards Baron. This is just, like I said, a comp error or a engage error for Gamers 2. They just didn't play for the TV behind and the flank onto Kog'Maw, which is the only way you win. I can kind of understand why, because it feels harder and harder to do that, but yep. This is just kind of a hard situation from Gamers 2. A lot of people are like, oh my god, like Kiki's in the like in Twitch chat, it's just like Kiki's is dumb, like a bunch of Ming Lees and shit. Well, in reality, what is he supposed to do? His team needs to check Baron. Their blue trinket weren't up, I suppose, or they weren't sure about where the enemy team was. They pretty much have to just send their tanks in first to like face check the Baron, or to try to get control of this Baron and see what the enemy team's doing. This could have been the turning point of the game either way, though. Fnatic end up securing it, I think, but if Alistar was able to headbutt Trick out before he died, then it would have been 100% guaranteed Baron, and they would have been able to hightail it out of here and just run a lot easier. Fnatic just needs to run. It's a good charm. He should have followed up his damage on that, though. This is it's a good aggressive play from Emperor. They're making the play that they need to try to win the game. Good flash from Fevibin. Trades off 1-1. If he didn't do that, then they just all die anyway. So it's a good idea of knowing, oh yeah, I'm probably fucked here. I just need to turn around and try to trade 1-for-1 with this Lucian. So Gamers 2 kills 4. And Baron's only at 1. I don't have any idea how they have a plus 600 Baron gold swing when they've literally just, like, all that happened was 3 people died of theirs since they got Baron. So that was pretty strange to me. But I guess they got some gold from somewhere. I'm not really sure what happened. But yeah, this is a point in the game where it becomes really hard to deal with Kog'Maw. Kog has Maul Malmortia, so he can't get one shot. He can pretty much be confident in sitting in front of the enemy team and autoing. And even if the Cog was extremely scared of getting bursted, instead of buying the Wit's End here, which is his buy to just max out on his MR here, he could have just decided, alright, I'm just going to buy my Sterex now, and at that point, your win condition of flanking and killing the Cog pretty much evaporates, and you have to just play off somehow killing the front line better, like landing good charms, etc., pillaring the Cog away from you, CCing the Cog while you deal damage to their front line. But, yep. This replay takes forever because they're just hitting a Maokai. And Fnatic decides to march up mid. I really like what Fnatic does here. You see Spirit just throwing spears at the Wraith camp, and they're just trying to make sure that they don't get flanked. They put one ward on the bot side of them, one ward on the top side of them, and make sure that they see all 5 of G2's players directly in front of them. That gives them better opportunity to just win the team fight, and it ensures that they're not going to get flanked or have anything happen to them that's random, which is one of the things you always have to be worried about when you're sieging, is getting flanked. If people put wards behind you, it's really easy to TP flank. So I thought this was a good way to just ensure that you're not getting positioned on or the enemy team's not getting good angles on you. So this, on the other hand, is a fail call to me. I don't think there's any reason to dive here. They end up going super hard on perks, but in my mind, like, if Kog'Maw's not hitting the person, it's not worth CCing them. So they end up trading 1 for 1, I guess. Spirit dies, but this is just Kog just being OP right here. Kog ends up living through this whole thing and just kills everyone. Forbidden actually didn't do anything in that team fight. He didn't get his W off. He didn't get his ult off. He didn't get his Zhonya's off. He literally got off, no skills, and Kog just stood there and auto-attacked, which is the point that you're trying to avoid the entire time on Kog. Like I said, there was obviously things Fnatic could have done to ensure that Kog got to the state a lot easier, but really in the end, the reason that Gamers2 did lose the game was because of their poor vision control, because they didn't set up for things, and because they did not have a big enough priority on dragon control in the early to mid game. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this VOD review. This is the first one that I've done for EU LCS. I'm going to be trying to do one EU and one NA VOD review every single week, so you have those to look forward to. Also, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like for me. If you haven't already subscribe to my YouTube channel, and give me any comments on things you'd like to do better, or things you'd like me to do better, or any commentary you have about my analysis, or anything that you want to discuss. I'll be reading the comments in the Reddit thread. I'll be reading the comments in the YouTube comments, and then I'll also be reading the comments that people send me on my Twitter. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Peace.